Hello everyone, welcome to the video lecture of Applied Hydraulics. In this video lecture, we'll be discussing about non-uniform flow. We'll be discussing about gradually varied flow, reasons for gradually varied flow, dynamic equation, backwater curve and afflux. Before we discuss gradually varied flow, let us recall a classification of non-uniform flow. In the previous video lecture, we have classified non-uniform flow into two types. We have classified non-uniform flow into rapidly varying flow and gradually varied flow. Rapidly varying flow may be defined as a non-uniform flow wherein the depth of flow changes abruptly over a short length of the channel. Hydraulic jump, which is a typical example of rapidly varying flow. We had discussed this in detail in previous video lecture. Coming back to gradually varied flow. Gradually varied flow may be defined as a steady non-uniform flow in which the depth of flow changes gradually over a large distance. The reasons for gradually varied flow are change in shape and size of the channel cross section. If you refer this diagram, at three different places the cross sections are not same. So if the area of flow section is not same, the resulting flow is non-uniform flow. The change in slope of the channel also results in gradually varied flow. The presence of obstruction such as wear causes gradually varied flow. If you refer this diagram shows a longitudinal profile of a natural channel, which is a river. Now, if there was no obstruction in the river, there would have been flow wherein the dotted line would indicate the free water surface. Because of this obstruction, at a certain point, the water level rises and it attains a maximum. The resulting flow obviously is a gradually varied flow. The fourth reason for gradually varied flow is the change in frictional forces at the boundaries. This is a typical cross section of a channel. Now, if we refer this photo, here there is a flow in the natural channel. The boundary of the natural channel is a rocky strata. The friction offered by this rocky strata at the sides as well as bottom to the flow is totally different as compared to this diagram, wherein there is a flow in the channel but the sides may be made up of soil. So because of the change in the boundary material, the friction forces are different, which is also one of the reason for gradually varied flow. Gradually varied flow occurs in flow upstream of the weir and dam. Second place is drawdown produced at a sudden drop in the channel. If you refer this diagram, let us assume this to be a dam spillway section. Obviously behind, which is upstream of the dam, we can expect a gradually varied flow. Now, in this diagram, we can see there is a drop in the canal. So this is the bed of the canal for a particular length, and this is one more bed of the canal for another length. So there is a change in there is a sudden drop in the bed of the channel. So obviously when there is a drop in the channel, we can expect a gradually varied flow. Coming to dynamic equation. So we'll be making the assumptions before deriving the dynamic equation for gradually varied flow. The first assumption is the channel is prismatic. a prismatic channel may be defined as a channel wherein the area of cross section and slope of the bed of the channel remains same over a particular length of the channel. The second assumption is the bed slope is small. So we'll be assuming the slope of the bed of the channel to be small. The third assumption is the flow is steady. Now, steady flow may be defined as the type of flow wherein the flow characteristics such as depth of flow, velocity of flow, discharge remains constant at a particular point. So if the flow is steady, obviously at that particular point discharge is constant. The fourth assumption is the pressure distribution over the channel is hydrostatic. So if we assume the pressure distribution over the channel to be hydrostatic, the streamlines will be practically straight and parallel. The fifth assumption is the energy correction factor alpha is unity. Sixth assumption is roughness coefficient is constant for the length of the channel and it does not depend upon depth of flow. For a particular length, if we consider the channel boundary to be made up of a single material, the roughness coefficient will remain constant. And also it does not vary with the depth of flow. The last assumption is the Church's equation and Manning's equation are equally applicable to gradually varied flow in determining the slope of energy line. Let us refer this figure. Let us assume the flow to be uniform. This in fact is a figure for gradually varied flow, but let us assume this figure here, let us assume the flow to be uniform. If the flow is uniform, the depth of flow at various points will be same. If the depth of flow at various points is same, the energy line will be parallel to the channel bed. Now, according to the last assumption, it says that Church's equation and Manning's equation are applicable to gradually varied flow for determining the slope of energy line. Now, Church's equation is V is equals to C under root RS. R S naught, sorry, V is equals to C under root R S naught, where V is the mean velocity of flow, C is Church's constant, R is hydraulic mean radius, S naught is slope of bed of channel. Now, since for a uniform flow channel, the slope of energy line is parallel to slope of bed of channel, so we can replace S naught with slope of energy line. And if V, C and R is known and S naught is SF is unknown, so we can use Church's equation to determine slope of energy line. In the same way, we have here Manning's equation. V is equals to 1 by n R raised to 2 by 3 S naught raised to 1 by 2, where n is Manning's roughness coefficient, R is hydraulic mean radius and S naught is slope of bed of channel. So if V, Manning's roughness coefficient n and R is known, so in place of slope of bed of channel, if it is SF, if SF is unknown, we can use this equation, we can modify this equation and we can find the unknown slope of energy line. So these are the assumptions which we make in order to derive the dynamic equation for gradually varied flow. So this is the diagram for gradually varied flow. We will be considering a rectangle channel. We will be considering a rectangle channel which is having a gradually varied flow. Here the depth of flow decreases in the direction of flow. If you see here, at this particular part the depth is more and here the depth is less. Let us consider a rectangle channel section having gradually varied flow. The depth of flow is decreasing in the direction of flow. Let B be the width of the channel section. Q is the discharge through the channel. Z is the height of the bottom of the channel above datum. Y is the depth of flow. V is the mean velocity of flow. So we are considering a rectangle channel section. B is the bed width of the channel section, Q is the discharge which is flowing through the channel section. Now Z is the height of the channel bottom with respect to a datum. So if this is the datum, Z is the height of the channel bottom with respect to the datum, and Y is the depth of flow at that particular point, and V is the velocity of flow. Now the velocity head we can find as V square by 2G. S0 is slope of bed of channel and SF is slope of energy line. Now if we apply Bernoulli's equation, which is the total energy equation at a section. So total energy at a particular section will be Z plus Y plus V square by 2G. The same thing has been mentioned here. So according to Bernoulli's equation, the total energy at any section is given by E is equals to Z plus Y plus V square by 2G. Let us call this as equation 1. Taking the bottom of the channel as x-axis and vertically upward direction measured from the channel bottom as y-axis, let us differentiate equation 1. So if we differentiate equation 1, we will be getting d by dx is equals to dz by dx plus dy by dx plus d by dx of v square by 2g. Let us call this as equation 2. Now consider the last term. D by dx of v square by 2g will be equal to d by dx of q by a. So in place of v, we are replacing it by q by a. So d by dx of v square by 2g will be equal to d by dx of q by a the whole square divided by 2g. Now the area we can write as b into y. So d by dx of q divided by by the whole square divided by 2g. And the above equation has been rewritten as in this way, that is d by dx of q square divided by b square y square into 2g. Here the discharge is constant, the bed width of the channel section is constant, and acceleration due to gravity is constant. So the only variable will be the depth of flow. So let us take the constant term outside. So q square by 2g b square into d by dx of 1 by y square. So differentiation of 1 by y square we will be getting as minus 2 by y cube into dy by dx. The other terms will remain as it is. So if we simplify, we will be getting minus 2 square divided by 2g y cube b square into dy by dx. And let us rewrite y cube as y into y square. The other terms as it is. Here 2 will be getting cancelled. So minus q square divided by gy into y square b square into dy by dx. Now q divided by b into y we can write as v. So q square divided by b square y square will be v square. So this equation we can rewrite as minus v square divided by gy into dy by dx. So substituting the value of d by dx of v square by 2g in the previous equation, that is equation 2, we will be getting d by dx is equals to dz by dx plus dy by dx minus v square by gy into dy by dx. Now we can take dy by dx common. So in the bracket we will be having 1 minus v square by gy. The other terms will be as it is, d by dx and dz by dx. Let us call this equation as equation 3. But dE by dx represents slope of energy line, and dE by dx is equals to minus SF. Why negative? Because SF is decreasing in the direction of flow, or I can say negative sign of SF indicates the value of E is decreasing with the increase of x. In the same way, dz by dx will be slope of bed of channel, which is nothing but S0, and dz by dx is minus s naught. So why minus? Again, negative sign indicates the value of z is also decreasing with the increase in the value of x. So substituting the value of d by dx and dz by dx in the previous equation, that is equation 3, we will be getting minus sf is equals to minus s naught plus dy by dx into 1 minus v square by gy. Or let me take minus s naught on the other side. So minus s naught, if I am sending it to the left hand side, it becomes positive. So dy by dx, if I simplify for dy by dx, I will be getting s naught minus sf divided by 1 minus v square by gy. The definition of Froude numbers says that Froude number fr is equals to v under root of gy. So this term v square divided by gy is nothing but square of Froude number. So if we simplify the above equation, it will be dy by dx is equals to s naught minus sf divided by 1 minus fr square. So here dy by dx represent the variation in the depth along the bottom of the channel. So dy by dx is slope. Dy by dx is slope of the free water surface. So let us consider few cases here. If the slope of the free water surface is 0, it means the depth of flow is constant. Obviously, for a uniform flow, we will be getting dy by dx is equals to 0. Now, when dy by dx is greater than 0 or dy by dx is positive, it indicates the depth of water. The depth of water increases in the direction of flow. So the water profile so obtained is called as backwater curve. So if we refer this diagram, here the depth of flow was increasing. So this typical curve is called as backwater curve. When dy by dx is less than 0 or dy by ds is negative, it indicates the depth of water decreases in the direction of flow. The water profile so obtained is called as drop down curve. Here this particular portion is actually drop down curve. Coming to backwater curve and afflux. Now, if there was no barrier in the channel, the water would have flown with a constant depth. Because of the obstruction, we can get a backwater curve. In case of an open channel, if we assume the flow is uniform, the depth of flow will remain same at all the sections. That is, the surface, the free water surface will be parallel to the bed of the channel. So if there was no obstruction, if the flow is uniform, the free water surface would have been parallel to the bed of the channel. Now, because of this obstruction, at a certain point, the depth of flow rises and it attains a maximum. So if we have an obstruction such as a dam or a weir across a channel, the water rises at a section and has a maximum depth at some section. So if you refer this diagram, at y1 the depth of flow starts increasing, and at y2 it attains a maximum depth. So if y1 is the depth of water at a section where the water starts rising, and y2 is the maximum height of rising water from bed, the difference in the depth of flow, that is y2 minus y1, is known as a flux, and the resulting curved surface of water with its concavity upwards is known as backwater curve. So in this diagram, at this particular point the depth of water is rising, and at this particular point it has attained a maximum. So here we can see concavity upwards. So this typical water surface profile is called as backwater curve, and the difference in depth of flow, that is y2 minus y1, is called as a flux. Coming to length of backwater curve. The length of backwater curve is the distance along the bed of the channel between the section where the water starts rising to the section where the water has maximum depth. So if you consider this to be a channel, so if the flow was uniform, if there was no obstruction, the water surface would have been parallel to the bed of the channel. Because of the obstruction, at a particular point the water depth starts rising, and at a particular point it attains a maximum depth. So the distance between these two sections, this section and where there is a maximum depth, the distance between these two is called as length of backwater curve. Let us find the expression for length of backwater curve. Consider this diagram. Consider a channel in which we are having a backwater curve which is formed as shown in the figure. So y1 is the depth of flow at section 11, v1 is the velocity of flow at section 11, y2 and v2 are the corresponding values at section 22. SO is the slope of the bed of the channel, and SF is the slope of energy line. So L is the length of the backwater curve, that is the distance between these two sections. Now if we apply Bernoulli's equation at these two sections, and if we consider section 22, the bed at section 22 as the datum. So if we are considering the bed at section 22 as datum, so if we consider the bed at section 22 as datum, and if we apply Bernoulli's equation here, so on the left hand side we will be having z1 plus y1 plus v1 square by 2g. On the other side we will be having y2 plus v2 square by 2g plus hf, where hf is loss of energy. The same thing has been mentioned here. So by applying Bernoulli's equation at the two section with the channel bed at section 22 as datum, so we will be getting this z1 plus y1 plus v1 square by 2g plus, that will be equal to y2 plus v2 square by 2g plus hf. Let us call this as equation 1. Here hf is the loss of head due to friction, and if you refer this diagram, hf will be equal to the slope of energy line into length. So sf is the slope of energy line into length will give me hf. In the same way, z1 will be equal to the slope of bed of channel SO into length. So hf is sf into L, and z1 is slope of bed of channel S naught into L. So if we substitute these values of HF and Z1 in equation 1, we will be getting S naught into L plus Y1 V1 square by 2G is equals to Y2 plus V2 square by 2G plus SF into L. Y1 plus V1 square by 2G, it represents the specific energy at section 1. Likewise, Y2 plus V2 square by 2G, it represents specific energy at section 2. So replacing these two terms as specific energy, so Y2 plus V2 square by 2G, it has been replaced as E2. Y1 plus V1 square by 2G, it has been replaced as E1. So if we rearrange the terms, this we can send on the other side, left hand side, so it becomes negative. So if we take L common, so L into S naught minus SF will be equal to E2 minus E1. So L will be equal to E2 minus E1 divided by S naught minus SF. E2 minus E1 is nothing but the difference in specific energy, delta E. So E1 and E2 represents the specific energy at the beginning and at the end of the backwater curve. SF is the slope of energy line. And we can determine the slope of energy line by using either Chedji's equation or Manning equation for the flow conditions of mean or average depth of flow. So these are my references. Thank you.